another segment. He's got a really great point to make on China. Curtis Ellis, our good friend Curtis, a senior policy advisor with America First Policies, and he had a great column out yesterday on the Clown Show called The Oversight Committee of the Democrats with Debbie Wasserman Schultz on it, which is an oxymoron in and of itself. Curtis Ellis, great to have you back for the second segment. You were making this great point about China, and I said, look, I gotta have this whole thing. I can't cut you off. What is it?
So you have to remember that Korea, North Korea and China, those two issues are linked. They're coupled. You have to always consider one. You have to consider both of them at the same time. So President Trump, I was about to make the point about President Trump walking away from the table, walking away from Kim Jong-un, walking away from a nuke deal with North Korea. Now, for the last 40 years, China has been playing American presidents and using North Korea to do it. There's ample evidence and a lot of on-the-record stuff of, and every so-called foreign policy expert in Washington for decades always said, well, we can't get tough with China on their trade. We know they've been ripping us off. We know they've been playing us for fools and never living up to any of their agreements. But we can't really get tough with them on that because we need China's help on North Korea. North Korea is developing nuclear weapons, and China has a tremendous influence over North Korea, and we want them to help us with that. So we better not say anything mean to them about the fact that they're robbing us blind, because then they won't help us with North Korea. Well, President Trump has flipped that script. He has turned the tables entirely on that. He went ahead and got tough with China, slapping tariffs on them and telling them they can just go pound sand unless they clean up their ways. And at the same time, he opened up direct talks with North Korea instead of outsourcing that job to the Chinese, who are untrustworthy and will never do anything for us because that's not what they do. So by doing that, he flipped the script. He said, I don't need China to make a deal with North Korea. But beyond that, what it's done is, you look at this now, he's reversed the whole thing 180 degrees. Now, China has to deliver on North Korea, or else, now China has to deliver on North Korea. Instead of us waiting for China to do something for us, they've got to do something. They have to. The onus is on them. But here's the point. Right before this whole North Korea thing happened, we have the China trade talks going on. Right. And President Trump said, okay, he's saying all these nice things about Xi Jinping. We're great friends, and we're going to extend these talks. We're going to get a great deal. So how do they look at this in Beijing when he's been saying kind of the same things about Kim Jong-un? I'm going to go meet him. We're going to have a great deal. We have a great relationship. And then he walks away from the table. They have got to be thinking in China right now, oh, my gosh, he could torpedo the whole China trade talk thing, the whole China trade negotiations.
Right.
He is capable of walking away from the table. And, John, you ran on your show an ad back in 2015 before President Trump, before Donald J. Trump even announced his candidacy. He was out there talking on your show and on Rush Limbaugh's show, an ad that ran all across the nation. He was saying to vote against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, Obama trade. He said, a bad deal is worse than no deal at all. Those are the words he's used. He used it in the ad. You've got it there in your archives. He said it many times, and he said it to me. As a matter of fact, he put those words in the ad. I went up and recorded that ad in his office at Trump Tower. And he said, hey, how about we put this in there? So that's his motto. And now the Chinese are watching very closely what happened in Vietnam, and they're saying, you know, this guy, we don't know what's going to happen. We better come across with a deal. We better come across with really addressing the structural issues of how we've been screwing America on the trade relationship, or else he could actually get up and walk away from the table.
Look, I think that is a great point. No one has made it. In that part of the message here is to China, and the president saying, look, I'm just going to walk away. China doesn't want to do that because they're faced with another $350 billion in tariffs, which they don't want, which is staring them on an April 1st deadline. And, Curtis, you're right. The president ran those Obama trade ads on our show, on our network, for months and months during 2015. And right in the ad, he said, you know what? No deal is better than a bad deal. You got to walk away. That's what he did yesterday. And so he didn't like the way things are going, and so he cut off the meeting and came home. Reagan did the same thing, as everybody knows, in Reykjavik in Iceland, and all the liberal left-wing legacy lying media jumped on him for it, said he walked away from this great deal. He doesn't know what he's doing. And, it was
a matter of months when the Soviet Union collapsed.
We saw the results of that, as we have in the past. But, look, you absolutely nailed it. I mean, the stakes are high here because the Chinese are watching what Trump does, and they saw him just get up, shake his hand, and walk away, and get back on his airplane. And, now Kim Jong-un has got like a 5-day train ride to get back. They don't have.
I hope they have better food on his train than they do on Amtrak. That's all I can say.
They don't actually. Amtrak is known for having some of the best food, but that's only when you do the overnight, not when you go to the snack bar. But
right,
look, Curtis.
Right.
Look, he's got a 5-day train ride back. They don't even have an airplane that's big enough to fly from Pyongyang to Hanoi. That's their problem. I mean, forget it. The sanctions have crippled their country. They don't even have enough jet fuel to get them on an airplane. They have to take a 5-day train ride. Unbelievable.
They don't even have enough rubber bands to run the little paper
what a
flyer.
Joke. I tell you what. Now we got Kamala Harris yesterday doing another flip-flop. First she's for legalizing prostitution. Now she's backing off. I mean, every day she sticks her foot in her mouth.
Yeah, she's a piece of work. Look, she's got a problem. She has many problems. She was Attorney General of California. When she was Attorney General of California, she prosecuted people for prostitution. She prosecuted people, sent them to prison for low-level drug offenses. She pursued, and here's the clincher is. There was a guy in prison wrongfully convicted, and she absolutely refused to give the guy a new trial and even give him a DNA test. There was DNA evidence that would have exonerated this guy who was rotting in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and Kamala Harris refused to even give a DNA test to prove that he was in jail wrongfully. I mean, how cold is that?
You can't
get worse than that. And now she's claiming to be the champion of social justice and justice. She wouldn't even give justice to one person who is rotting in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And now she's going to give justice to the whole country? What a fraud. Total fraud. She's a complete establishment fraud, which means the Democrats should love her because she's a fraud. This is another one. When I was in the Labor Department, I was looking at child labor and things like that happening around the country. California has a law that says companies, giant corporations, have to list their suppliers and publicly disclose the suppliers so people can see if they're using contractors that use child labor. Like Kathy Lee Gifford had little children chained to sewing machines in Bangladesh making her clothes, right? We have to know about that. They pass a law in California saying we have a right to know about that. Kamala Harris, as Attorney General, refused to release the names of the companies and their suppliers. The companies had to file that information with her office, and when asked about it, she refused to issue it. She is an establishment, Wall Street, big business, multinational, globalist shill. She's a fraud, just like Obama was.
There it is, right there.
She's got all the right outward appearances. Everybody, all the liberal, the idiot liberal logic saying, "Oh well, she must be this great thing." So, and you heard what she did. She says she smoked marijuana when she was in college, right, or something like that in some interview.
Yes.
She couldn't even leave it at that, right?
Yes.
She had to say, "Oh, well, I'm Jamaican, so of course." Her father came out and said, her father, this prestigious economist, and he said, and he's Jamaican, right? Her father's Jamaican,
Stanford, yes,
and part of the elite in Jamaica, and he came out, slammed her, said, "You've just spat on the family legacy. This guy doesn't smoke pot. He's Jamaican. It's like every Jamaican is like a Rastafarian. The Rastafarians in Jamaica were viewed as weirdos. The Jamaican people are not Rastafarians. It's not the same thing, you know? Just like everybody in New York City is not a Hasidic Jew, you know? I mean, and most Jews don't even...
Most Jews aren't even Hasidic Jews. John Fredericks Radio Network. I got to go in from our sponsors. I want to thank Curtis Ellis for being with us, my man.
I better get off before I get in trouble, but thank you. I wanted to lay that out. Look, this whole China-Vietnam thing, you got to put the two together. Korea and China, you have to view both together. It's all part of the same equation.
All right. Well, we got to put your segment up on YouTube because it's pretty hot. In fact, you're going to have to text me what you want me to title it so I don't have to text you and ask you that. So do that.
Okay.
All right. We got to go to a quick word from our sponsors. We're live at TPAC, the Trump Political Action Conference, as the president and his America First agenda has eviscerated the feckless, do-nothing, Wall Street baby donor Republican Party that's now gone the way of the Whigs. Stay with us. I'll be right back.